Question 12. Calculate each of the following. So this is a 2-mark question. 3 to the power of 4 times 10 to the power of 3. So powers tell you how many times the number has been times by itself. So this 3 has been times by itself 4 times. So 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And now we've got to times that together with 10 to the power of 3. So that 10 has been times by itself 3 times. 10 times 10 times 10. So now I can work out each part of this question and then times those answers together. So 10 times 10 times 10, that's nice and easy. We've got just 10 times 10, you add a 0, and then times it by another 10, you add another 0. So this one now is a little trickier. So we do the first 2 to start with, and then with that answer we times it by 3, and then with that answer we times it by 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. So now I've got 9 times 3 times 3. So now I do these two numbers. 9 times 3 is 27. And 27 times 3. So you can do that in your head. Probably not a good idea. So we can do the the grid method to work that out. So if I do that up here, I split up my 27 into 20 and 7 times, and then I put 3 here. So 2 times 3 is 6, don't forget the 0. 3 times 7 is 21. And then I have to add those two numbers together then to give me 81. So 27 times 3 is 81. So therefore, my question now is 81 times 1,000. Well, how do I times a number by 1,000? I just add 3 zeros because it's a whole number. So 81 times 1,000 is going to be 81 and add 3 zeros. Count back 3, put a comma. So that is 81,000. So in the exam, you'll be given 1 mark if the examiner sees either 81 or 1,000. So if you've worked out this part or that part, they will give you 1 mark. And obviously if you have 81,000, that gives you the final 2 marks. So either that one or that one is 1 mark. And there's your other mark. So 5.6 take away 3.82. So you need to set this out in the column method now. So 5.6 take away 3.82. So we need to make sure our decimals are in a nice straight line, even the one in the answer. Put those in first to make sure you don't forget. And I've got a gap here. It's a good idea. I fill that in with zeros. Okay, so now I take away 0, take away 2. I can't do that, so I need to borrow. 6 becomes a 5, and I borrow the 1 over. 10 take away 2 is 8. 5 take away 8. I can't do that, so I have to borrow. The 5 becomes a 4. That becomes 15. 15 take away 8 is 7. 4 take away 3 is 1. So my answer here is 1.78 for 1 mark. Part C. So we've got taking away fractions here. So there are 3 things that we need to do. First thing, you get 1 mark if the examiner sees this. You need to make the denominators the same. So the denominator is the bottom number. So this 6 and 3 I need to make the same. How do I do that? I find the lowest common multiple of 6 and 3. So that means the smallest number in both times tables. So it's the smallest number that they both have in common in their times tables. So it's always easier if you start with the bigger number. So do the 6 times table, 6, 12, 18 and so on. And then do the 3 times table. 3, well I don't have one in common yet, and then 6. So now I found one that they both have in common. That's the smallest number in both of their times tables. So now I know that my bottom number, my denominator of both fractions, I'm going to change to be a 6. and I write this underneath the original question. So now, and I'm going to eventually take away those two fractions. So now I'm going to do step 2. So I've got to follow the arrows. What you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So I'm going to draw an arrow from this on the right hand side and an arrow from there on the left hand side. And then what you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So how did I get from this bottom number of 6 all the way to this bottom number of 6? What did I times it by? Times it by 1. How did I get from this bottom number to that bottom number? What do you times 3 by to get 6? 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 1 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. So what I've done to the bottom, I must do exactly the same to the top numbers. So I follow my arrows. 5 times 1 is 5. That gives me my top number. Follow the arrows. 2 times 2 is 4. That gives me my other top number. At the minute, I only have 1 mark because I've made the bottom numbers the same. So I've got 6 and 6, so that gives me 1 mark. To give me my final mark, I've actually got to do 5 over 6, take away 4 over 6. So this is where I use the third rule now. I add or take away the fractions, but the bottom number always stays the same. So the bottom number is going to stay as a 6, and then I just do 5, take away 4, which is 1. And that there is your final mark. So 1 over 6 gets you 2 marks straight away. Part D, 0.2 times 0.3. So without a calculator, this is super easy. If you, step 1, take the decimals out. So instead that says 2 and that says 3. Then you do the sum. So 2 times 3 is 6. And now you put the decimal back. So the rule is you need the same amount of numbers after the decimal in the answer as they were in the question. So in the question, there were 2 decimals, don't forget, and there was 1 number after this one and 1 number after that one. So that means I need 2 numbers after the decimal in my answer. So if I put my decimal here, I've got nothing after it. If I put it here, that means I'll have the 1 number after it. So I need to put it here, and I need 2 numbers after it. So I fill in that gap with a 0. So that now means I've got 2 numbers after my decimal place. However, I've got nothing in front of it, so to make that look a bit better, it needs to be 0.06. And that is 1 mark.